Hi guys, I'm back so soon. Thank you all for a really lovely response to the last video. Your condolences are greatly appreciated. And I don't know if you noticed, but I got a new dog. Here he is. His name's Oscar. He's a Brussels Griffon, and he's a puppy, and I love him very much. And someday I'll tell you the story of how I got him. But right now, I want to upload an interview I did with Heidi Durrow, who you probably know from me, at least, is the co-host of the Mixed Chicks Chat, which I am a big fan of. But also, Heidi has written just a beautiful novel. It's called The Girl Who Fell from the Sky, and it's available everywhere now, and everyone should read it. Not just because I want to support biracial and I want to support Heidi, but it is truly just a really fantastic book. Stunning. So I hope you enjoy this interview. I guess I'm back. One of the things that really stuck out to me was when Rachel said,
"You're gonna totally make me cry because you're talking about the book like it's a book."
It is a book,
and like
and
the
these
people
are people.
I
know
freaking me out.
I am some of them.
Oh my god. Okay, go ahead. I'm ready.
And she says, "I don't want the Danish to be something I can put on and take off. I don't want the Danish in me to be something time makes me leave behind." And that just really resonated with me, not because I'm Danish, because I'm not, but because I think that's part of what makes this so hard, is that you never know who's going to want you to leave that part of you that they don't identify with or that makes them feel less than to be present in you.
Yeah, that, I mean, obviously that's a sentiment I feel too, especially as I grow older. So here I am at age 40 writing a coming-of-age story.
Mm-hmm.
And still I have these feelings like Rachel does when she says, I don't want being Danish something that I have to leave behind, like, my buck teeth or skin needs or whatever it is. It's something that, being Danish is so important to me. It's essential to who I was growing up, and it's something I want to hold on to, and yet as I become more and more adult, it's so far away that I worry that it seems inauthentic to other people, even though it feels like it's my authentic me.
Do you feel like if you look different, you wouldn't have the same concern? That it wouldn't seem inauthentic to other people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I joined the Danish Sisterhood last week.
How'd that go?
It actually was really amazing, but I did have this moment where I felt like I had a Danishness.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone in the group speaks Danish, but I speak Danish, and the people in the group didn't know that I did speak Danish, so all of a sudden I responded in Danish, because it was it's one of those essential questions, like, that was just the way I was going to respond, no matter what. I heard, like, my aunt's voice asking me a question, and I responded in Danish, right? And as soon as I did, suddenly I felt like, oh, I became more real. I became more really Danish. So to hold on to language for me is one way of not having to let it go and of being more authentic. But it's hard to look ethnically ambiguous, to, I don't look my age, I don't look my race, whatever that's supposed to mean, I don't look my culture.
I understand. Okay, so now I have two things I could bring up at this point. One, I almost envied Rachel, and I know this is not an autobiography, thank God, in many ways.
Oh my God. Thank God.
And you, though, because you have, for me to say, oh, I'm white and black, without there really being a definition of what white in America is, and I'm this American white. Like, I envy you that, because Danish to you is something like tangible and real, and of course whiteness has influenced me, but it's hard to pinpoint what that is when it's kind of generally like, oh, well, that's just normal.
I don't want people to envy me that I have that mix where I have claim to both two races and two cultures.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like when I say I'm mixed, it's most important that I say not that I'm half black and half white, but that I'm half Danish and half African American. And like my Danish culture is kind of my family culture. That's like home. And my American culture is what I get to do most of the time. And my African American culture is something I've studied and found my way into. So I think I do feel lucky in that way that I have different access points to different cultures. Because when you say that you're half white, or when I said it in the past, I realize people are like, oh, you believe in racial hegemony, and you think it's important for people to say that they're white so that they get better treatment. And someone just wrote that on my blog the other day. And I thought, well, if you read the whole blog, you'll realize that's not what I'm saying. And what I ultimately hope is that people recognize that, for me, yeah, I feel lucky that I can say I belong to two cultures. And for the people who are mixed and who don't belong to two different cultures, I hope they realize they belong to two stories. And that they suddenly have come together in this really magnificent way.
I think it's also an opportunity for us to stop so much confusing race and culture and ethnicities, and also really to make us question what is white in America. What does that mean?
I think it's important.
I think part of white privilege is not having to define it, not having to think about it.
Absolutely.
But it is something. We all know it if you've ever been on the outside of it. And on the inside of it. You especially know it. So I guess that's all I have to say about that. But also the other thing about the language in the book, when Rachel talks about, since she's been the new girl and learning new words and phrases and your hair going back in the kitchen and all of those things.
I learned all of those phrases, hair going back, the kitchen, all of that when I was 11 years old. I had never heard those things before.
Who told you?
Other kids. Other kids told me these things. Because, and here's the thing, someone needs to police children. I know we're talking about, let's talk about drugs, make sure you talk to your kids about sex, but let's have the R talk. Let's talk about race. And I don't just mean white parents talking to white kids and black kids talking to black parents talking to black kids, or mixed race families talking to their mixed kids. Everybody's got to be talking about this, because everything I learned about race came from kids, television, and other kids. So first of all, you got these crazy images on TV. So I thought the good times, because I grew up mostly overseas, the good times, that was the only black family I knew. And then came Different Strokes. Mm-hmm. And I used to be so mad about that, because I thought, that's not what an interracial family looks like. And the Jeffersons made me mad too, right? They
That's the worst offense.
The interracial family, and the kids don't look biracial to me at all. And it was all so confusing to me. But the people who could explain it to me, or the only ones who would, were the other kids, who also got their information from television and had pieced together things they had eavesdropped about. My hope is ultimately, parents will sit down, and it's going to be tough, because as a parent, you have to investigate your own biases, ignorance, right?
Yeah.
Come to terms with, you've got to come to terms with your own experiences. Sometimes you have to think about them for the first time, maybe. And then try to communicate something that lets kids go forward, forward thinking, as opposed to, okay, these are the answers. For sex, it's easy. Wear a condom, don't have sex too early. It's best when you're in love. Like, I don't mean to be old-fashioned, but really, like,
Yeah.
just kind of like, there are some simple rules you can say, but with race, like, what do you say? Like, don't say bad words to each other. But
That's not
it's not enough. It like goes beyond that. It's like, open your mind, like, see how you're connected to.
Don't see yourself as separate.
Exactly, don't see yourself as separate from the other people, even though there may be difference in a food or a word or whatever it is.
Well, something else in the book was some important things about a person can't be seen, and I know that I just misquoted that.
I like the way you said that. I'm going to add that in the next edition.
But you could have described, Rachel could have described more and said this, this, and this, but those weren't the important things about her.
Oh.
And you could look at Anthony Miller and see, and even though you couldn't see the
Oh my God, you
him,
put those two things together.
Yes, there's another one, but now I'm not remembering where it is, but something else goes with that.
Yes.
He didn't have to see that to believe him.
Yes, so this, for me, that's one of the central difficulties in my own upbringing, that because of the way I look, and obviously I look different now. I look different tomorrow probably, because I'll have my hair straight or whatever it is. 2 weeks from now when I lose 10 pounds, so I look a little different. But so often, and I realize now, like as an adult, because I'm ethnically ambiguous, what was lost in translation about me was the most important thing to me. So when I came to the States at 11 years old, and we'd been overseas for many years, and I guess spoiled because there we were American. That's not to say that it was like the best place in the whole world, but because we were in Germany, off base, we were the Americans on the street. We weren't the black people on the street or the mixed family on the street. We were Americans, and so that was like my central identity. And when I came to the United States, suddenly my identity was different. And people would ask me, where are you from? Or what are you? And I would say, or I'd want to say, I mean, I learned very quickly not to say this, but I would say, I want to say, I'm the best speller in my whole school. Or I can do the times table sprints around the class 3 times before anyone could do their multiplication tables faster than me, or whatever it was. Like I had a different identity. And those were the essential things. And what got stripped away from me were the essential things when people looked at me. But I noticed that it happens to everybody.
It does.
Like here I was, like I'm like wallowing in like not being able to express myself. But it happens to people in all sorts of ways. So the Anthony Miller character, the kids think it's funny that he's part Native American, and he goes along with it also, which is, it's kind of appealing almost to disappear yourself that way and be okay about it. But ultimately, Rachel isn't able to do that. Like she really needs to hold on to that part of herself because it's part of her mother.